2:48, so my local time. So I think this is it. We have a relatively small audience of 9 participants, but I'm not surprised because we have a strong competition out there with other interesting sessions. But it doesn't really matter because we're recording, and people will definitely take a chance to revisit the recording of our session. So my name is Gudetsky. I'm a solutions architect at We Localize, a localization service provider. And I also teach localization engineering and project management at the University of Washington here in Seattle. And I've been doing that for quite a long time. I'm also one of the original founders of EDU12, which is our initiative to bridge academics and the localization industry. And for this year's LocWorld, LocWorld hosts EDU12 and provided us this track focusing on education and localization. So that's great. This morning, my EDU12 colleague Belen has already hosted a panel with representatives and lecturers from the academics. So this ties directly to that. And now we give an opportunity to some students that we have selected. Emmeline, Tyler, Alejandro, and Ren were referred to me by other lecturers. Tyler actually is one of my students. They have all completed their course, and they're actively working in a position in the localization industry. And we encourage them today to share their experience, first to introduce themselves. And I'm lazy, I'm not introducing them myself. I get everybody some time to introduce themselves and talk about the course, some details on their course, how long it took, and any positives or negatives. And they're absolutely free to share that in our lecture today, or in our panel discussion, rather. So without further ado, I would invite, oh, yes, and after every presentation, every speaker, feel free to ask questions directly. And then we also have some time after all the introductions for some discussions and questions. So without further ado, Emmeline, you're first up, please.
Hi, thank you. So hi, everyone. So my name is Emmeline. I'm French, and I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. So I just graduated from a master's degree in technical communication and localization program at the University of Strasbourg. So although this is a French university, all the classes in this program are in English, and also the professors come from all over the world and are experts in their field with real life experience. So this program is done entirely remotely, which is great in terms of flexibility, and it probably explains why there were no repercussions when the pandemic hit. So the master's degree is designed for people who also work at the same time, and there are several options in terms of duration. There is an accelerated option that lasts 1 year, another that lasts 1.5 years, and a final option of 2 years. So I personally took the 2-year option, and I still had to study about 15 hours per week on top of my full-time job. So I may have been able to study less, but I took the approach of getting as much as I could from the classes. It was definitely a challenge to balance both the job and the studies, but I really had a wonderful time during those 2 years. I was invested in every class, and I really liked that there were extra optional classes that were added throughout the program. I actually completed all the classes that were offered to me, and I learned quite a lot. So the classes were really interesting and made me discover a lot of different subjects. We of course had classes about localization and technical communication, but also about programming languages, project management, web design, plain language, and so on. I actually used to work in the localization field, and I enrolled in the master's program during that time. I know for a fact that this master's would have been really helpful in my previous job. And so at that previous job, I worked for RWS Moravia as a French localization and software QA specialist for over 2 years. This was my first job in the localization field, and I wanted to know more about it, so I actually started to look for programs. So given I live relatively close to Monterey, I was tempted to go for the master's degree in localization offered by the Middlebury Institute. And I also knew a couple of people that were currently enrolled, and they were very happy about it, but I didn't end up enrolling for two reasons. The first one, because it was very important for me to be able to keep working full-time at my current job. And the second was the price. So after looking for other programs, I came to the conclusion that the master's from the University of Strasbourg overall suited my needs better and was much more affordable than all the other options I was interested in. So about 2 years ago, which is in like a couple of months after starting the program, I started a new job in a different field. I've since been working at LinkedIn via Workforce Logic as an engineering linguist. So there, my tasks are to basically enrich and manage LinkedIn's taxonomy for the French market, as well as identifying semantic mappings between concepts. I also do data evaluation, where I mainly analyze and evaluate data outputs coming from the algorithms. And from there, I create heuristic and natural language processing rules for AI models to understand the French language better. So although I don't work in localization anymore, the classes I had, such as user experience and machine translation, have been helping me a lot at my current job. Also, since I have to deal with a large amount of data, I get to use regular expressions often. And thankfully, there was a class given by Professor Alexandros Zekakis, who is also a speaker at LockWorld. His class was called Advanced Configurations, and it focused on regular expressions and XPath to prepare segmentation and parsing rules. It was a really amazing class and actually one of my favorites. So in terms of what could have been better, I'm not sure I would change anything. However, since this master's is about both technical communication and localization, make sure that you're okay with the technical communication aspect before signing up. I personally didn't know anything about technical communication going into the program, but I did find it interesting. And the nice thing too is that you not only get a master's degree, but also a certificate in technical communication from TCOM, which is the largest professional technical communication association in the world. So to sum up, the classes were great and I learned a whole lot during the last 2 years. I would recommend this program for anyone who is interested in getting a master's in localization while being okay with learning about technical communication. And all that at an affordable price and remotely, while still having the possibility of working full-time.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Emeline. And by the way, I almost forgot, congratulations on just completing your master's.
Thank you.
We saw that. One question I have, because it's a relatively long course, I mean, you said it took you 2 years because you were working. Did you find it stressful to have that course next to your professional work, or was that doable? Did you have enough time for that?
I think it was doable. I mean, to be honest, it was also kind of difficult. I mean, in a way, it was difficult because it was at the same time there was the pandemic. So I think it stressed out a lot of people. The good thing is that the whole program is designed to be completely remotely. So in a way, we were not affected, but I mean, just like everybody else, it was a pretty big toll, I guess, mentally and emotionally. But apart from that, I mean, if you have the discipline, I think everything will be okay. Like, I mean, I did spend, before work and after work or during weekends, I had to study about, I think, like 15 hours per week. But I know some people kind of took the shorter route. Like, in a way, like I really wanted to get as much as I could from the classes. So I'm pretty sure you could have been able to study a bit less than 15 hours per week. But it was my approach. So I think it's doable. I mean, I think it's doable, and the program is is designed for people who work full time. So I think it's definitely doable.
Excellent. Any other questions to Emily? And Ellie, I would ask you if you could keep an eye on the chat, because I have too many windows open here.
For sure. Yeah, I will have one, Emmeline. If I wanted to ask you about what exactly technical communication involves, because from my point of view, yeah, it's far away from my knowledge. So what does it exactly mean in terms of classes? What did you learn when dealing with technical communication? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, good question. I thought it was a very good question because before enrolling, I was not 100% sure. So technical communication is basically creating and presenting technical or scientific information to users. So we didn't have that many classes about this during the program. It was more, since like I said, it's like you have a master's degree and at the same time a certificate from TCOM, which is like a technical communication association. Basically like maybe the only class I had was the preparation to take this exam. It did take me 6 months, but again, I took the very long route for the master's program. And apart from that, we had optional classes, like a lot of software for technical communication. And for me, they were optional, but you could also like, I mean, I guess for the people who were very interested in the technical communication aspect of this master's, add other classes that were more tailored to them. So you have some choices, if it makes sense.
Perfect.
Yes,
Thank you so
thanks a lot.
much. Yeah. Let's head over to Ren. Ren, please let us know where you are and what course you took.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here. Hi, everyone. My name is Ren. I am currently located in Los Angeles. 2 years ago, I came to the States from China to pursue the master's degree in Translation and Localization Management at Middlebury Institute of International Studies, or MIS. So the program itself is 2 years. So I just graduated this year in May. And right after graduation, I joined Aclaro as an intern in localization project management. And luckily, after the 3 months internship, I was hired as a full-time project coordinator at Aclaro. I'm very happy to stay at Aclaro because I really love the teams that I worked with. So I can talk a little bit more about the program at MIS. Actually, before I attended MIS, I was mostly just a student / freelance linguist. And localization was completely new to me at the time. So I really appreciated the courses that I attended. They really gave me a lot of insight into what localization actually is. And what I appreciated most was that we had the opportunities to experience more general concepts and ideas at first, and then later on, we can gradually figure out a direction that we want to follow. For example, for me, I was more interested in the management side. So I took more courses related to managerial skills. And for other people, if they're more into coding, there are courses for programming languages, both for beginners and for more advanced students. So speaking of that, I also think that the courses at MIS are very well designed and well tiered because for me at the time, I was new to localization. So I was in the 2-year program, but there was also an option for more advanced students. They can take a 1-year program to complete their degree if they want to further their skills, or maybe they want to refresh some of the skills. And also in terms of skills, at MIS, the courses could teach you both practical, technical skills, or as I said, management skills, if you're more into that. I think I can give you an example of how the courses helped me. I particularly remember that during my very first semester at MIS, I attended a course called Talent / Vendor Management. The course has a different name now, but at the time, it has 2 parts. The first part was taught by Elena Brandt, and the second part was taught by Eva Klaudinova, who I know this is also in this session today. So for that course, I think it's really friendly to people like me who had no idea what all those concepts were at the time. I would say that this course really was a solid starting point for me because it helped me understand what's going on and what everybody was saying. And I could also understand the different roles or the different purposes of different processes or workflows. I could figure out, oh, okay, this is how the entire chain of services work in localization. And from there, I was able to learn more and go further. And I did because later on in my following semesters, I could take more advanced courses based on the previous ones. And most importantly, I feel that these courses are related to each other because they're kind of like built upon, especially if they're taught by the same professor. And now that I think about it, I think the courses provided very good guidelines and principles for my current work because I know what to pay attention to during my work so that I can keep everything organized. I guess finally, the only thing that I want to add is that so the program itself was intended to be on-site, and I was located in the States the entire time. But during because of the pandemic, we actually studied online for quite a long time. And now MIS is also offering an online TLM program, translation and localization management program. So if you're interested in online studies and if you feel like you cannot attend on-site courses, this might be a good choice for you. Thank you.
Okay, sorry, I had muted. Oh, wait, I'm live again. Ren, thank you very much. One question I have, because your course, I understand at least part of your course you were able to attend in person. Is that correct? Or were you online all the time?
Not all the time. I think at least probably I was on site for about, I think through the beginning of the second semester, I was on site. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have any preference, anything that you would say, this is so much better if you're together with other people, if you're attending in person versus online, or the other way around?
For me personally, I definitely prefer on-site courses because I really love communication with real people. And but the online courses were dealt very well actually, because the professors worked really hard on keeping the communication with us. And so I would say that the courses were still had very lively discussions, even though they were online. Yeah.
That's good. Great. Any other questions to Ren, audience, students? Right, if not, we can always go back later. Tyler, please feel free to fire away. It is my course, and I'll love any kind of feedback, positive or negative.
No, I have nothing too horrific to say today, so don't worry. So yeah, the basic information is right here. Yeah, my name's Tyler. I am currently living in Columbus, although that's changing as of tomorrow. Actually, I'm moving to Bellevue, Washington, which is why my office looks like super empty and sad right now. But yeah, the course, well, rather the program, I'm going to be talking about the program as a whole, not one of the particular courses in it. I will be talking about is the certificate in localization, which is at University of Washington. And that was a 9-month program. So yeah, I do want to start just by talking about like sort of how it's helped me. And I'm going to break that into 2 parts. I'll sort of talk about how it helped me like at the time I was taking it, and then sort of like afterwards, like how it's helped me going forward from there, right? So, so yeah, at the time, I was actually working in the banking industry. in sort of like this super old school translation operation. Like we mostly worked with like printed documents, not a lot of digital content. So like anytime we encountered some loc topics, we would sort of get a little apprehensive. We'd be like, oh no, we just translate, like this is not our problem. But no, having this this coursework and like being able to learn more about like what loc topics actually are and like how we can address them, it did help me provide like some guidance and some best practices to the operation I was working with around some of the encountered issues. And like as we of course modernized and started doing more like digital communication, we of course encountered these loc issues like bidirectional text, character encoding issues, parser calibration for markup language files, like all this stuff that was brand new to them. So it was definitely super helpful for me in that respect. It also helped me, it helped grant me some new perspectives around my primary project I was working on at the time. We were, I got this dev team and they were like helping me to produce a homegrown TMS from scratch, which was like a lot of fun. But anyway, the course, we did do a lot of like looking at different TMSs and like their functionality. And that gave me some new insights on like what features and experiences would be good to bring value to like what we were building as ourselves. So yeah, definitely useful in like a lot of different respects at the time. Since then, that's not what I'm doing anymore. But no, since then, it did also provide me essential tools, which helped me in my job search. I had been job searching since like the beginning of this year. I was looking to like relocate, which like I told you, that's happening soon. I wanted to enter the gaming industry. I wanted to work with digital content, not so much with like printed documents. But yes, I did just start a role as a associate tech producer at Wizards of the Coast. So yeah, I was able to sort of check all my boxes. But I really think that this demonstrates a shift in how employers view localization. Like I would say there's an increase in recognition sort of across the board, right? So, because like not so long ago, like even within the language services field, I would talk to people about localization and they'd sort of be like, well, what's that? Tell me more, I don't know. But no, like as I was job searching in like these past few months, I noticed that more and more people not only recognize like what localization is, but also recognize it as being a valuable asset. So yeah, sort of like Emeline, I'm not directly working in localization right now, but it was definitely relevant and helpful for me in like a variety of manners. So yeah, so that's sort of like the usefulness of the program and whatnot. So to touch more on like the pros and cons of the program itself, like some things I really enjoyed about it is that it had a varied structure, which I found gave the program a super like dynamic character. Like it was all done remotely, but we had like a mixed variety of lecture types. We would do our regular lectures. Sometimes we would have guest speaker panels. We would do workshops sometimes. And like other like different types of activities, which would give us like not only like real world experience, but also help us get insight from industry insiders who would like come into the class and like talk to us about these different things. So no, I found that really enjoyable. I also found that there was like a surprisingly wide breadth of topics that we covered for like a 9-month program, because like 9 months is not that long for an educational program. But no, like I said, we talked about all like these different various topics like text and character encoding and like all these things that really helped in like real world circumstances. So yeah, I would say we touched on like a really healthy breadth of topics. And I mean, that equips us as students to engage with industry professionals and even hiring managers and like employers and whatnot to be well equipped to speak on a wide variety of localization topics. So that's really strong for someone who's coming through as a student, right? The only con, well, I wouldn't even call it a con. I would say the only opportunity I find with the program is it definitely has the opportunity to develop further. Like we talked like about a broad variety of topics. I think the depth could definitely be deepened. And I would love like someday if it could be expanded to an MA program instead of just like a certificate program. So yeah, that's my thoughts. I think we're going to open it up for questions.
Hello, thank you so much for, oh, I keep forgetting to, what am I? Am I live? Sorry. Oh, I'm live. Tyler, thank you so much, especially since you're moving and you're probably somewhere in a relatively empty space. So I appreciate that you're still attending this with us. And yeah, you already answered one of my questions. Was the course deep enough, or would you expand it to some point? Yes, and we are actively discussing expanding the course. So any other questions for Tyler?
I'm interested in hearing more about the workshops that you had at the time. Because for us, some of the workshops were more, I guess the workshops that I attended were more focused on lectures. I was wondering, what about yours? Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, I can definitely speak a little to that. So yeah, there was one part of one of the courses, the engineering course actually, where we went through and we just sort of like downloaded all these different programs, different like CAT tools, TMSs and whatnot, and just sort of as a group sort of went in and like tested all these different functionalities of them. We even went through and like messed around with VLC media player and applied different linguistic skins to that. So yeah, I mean, stuff that you wouldn't get to do just sort of like in a lecture, just like watching and listening, right? Just we actually like went in and like messed around with these programs, which I really enjoyed the hands-on aspect of that.
That sounds very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, great feedback from me, because Pavel and I, we teach that and we facilitate that workshop, and it's good to get positive feedback, especially if you're already in the industry and say, hey, this was useful, then of course we can continue doing what we're doing. Great. Next up, last but not least, Alejandro, please, and let me know when you want me to advance for your slides.
Okay, great. Okay, yeah, so hello everybody, my name is Alejandro. I'm Spanish and I'm based in the north of Spain. I am currently combining my work as audiovisual freelance translator with a part-time job localizing the content into Spanish for a company named Mercateo United España. So just to introduce it shortly, the Spanish branch from the Mercateo group, which is based in Germany and in 14 European countries. And it provides infrastructure for procurement and the B2B industry. So yeah, Jan, if you can move to the next slide. Yeah, here's once again, a little bit like a summary about my personal profile and everything. And if you can move to the next one, I think we're getting back to business actually. I want to tell you then my experience studying the master's degree in audiovisual translation at the Universitat Autònoma de Barcelona. So the master's degree can be completed in 1 or 2 years, and you've got the chance to attend to the lessons in person, which is the option what I did, or you can choose the virtual mode and do everything remotely. And this is important also to mention that the course is taught in Spanish with also Catalan as a choice. And from my point of view, has an affordable price. And well, also important to mention that all the teachers have many years of professional experience in the field, and some of them are also researchers at university. Jan, could you please move to the next slide? Okay, cool. So regarding the content of the program, I can, or I remember it was very, very complete. Like it was divided into several modules. For example, the first one centers on the theoretical aspects of audiovisual translation and how to approach theoretical work in this field. But there are many more, as you can see on these slides, such as video game website localization, translation for the dubbing, subtitling for the deaf and hard of hearing, and audio description, for example. And within these modules, we also learn, for example, how to edit and lay out texts, how to post-edit, like we've got an introduction and post-editing and machine translation, and also how to create our own guidelines, starting from the existing ones, for example, in order to translate or for subtitling. And one of the last modules, which was a great discovery for me, was the module called Respeaking. In that module, we learned how to use the software called Dragon Naturally Speaking, which was also a great experience. So if you can move to the next slide. Thank you. And yeah, talking about positives aspect and then the room for improvement, let's name it that way. So I would like to point out one of the strong points of the master's degree is that they organize several live conferences that added an extra knowledge on the audiovisual field. For example, we've got like a seminar called subtitling for theater festivals, which is little known, but a very interesting modality, I think. And we've got, for example, another one on translating and adapting songs into Spanish, which was also very, very interesting. And I would also highlight some sessions focused on the history of cinema. I remember we did that lessons, we took that lessons at the beginning of the course. And for me, it was so interesting that I would have loved to go more further into detail into the subject to understand everything about cinema and how everything works within a production, for example. And another suggestion for the course, from my point of view, would be to include some more training of subtitling and translation tools that are now like not so expensive and that are alternatives to the more traditional ones, if you can say it like that. Jen, can you pass to the next slide? Okay, so the conclusion, I would recommend the master's degree to Spanish speakers from Spain and Latin America. For example, I remember when I did it, when I did the master's degree, there was an Argentinian girl also in the course, because she mentioned that in Latin America, there are not so many courses specialized on that area. So that would be a positive point, maybe. And yeah, people who are interested in languages and want to go deeper into the field of audiovisual translation. And I think it can be suitable both for people starting from scratch or for people who have already basic knowledge and some background experience, because you can get motivated by seeing there's a professional world outside the course. And to conclude my presentation, I want to tell like a real short story that happened to me. So when I was about to finish my master's degree, I sent my CV to Darwin Studio in Barcelona. It's not like a top company, but it was I thought it could be a great start. So I happened to mention one of the lecturers from the course, and it turned out that the representative of the company knew him, and so they contacted him for reference. And well, the best part is that they finally decided to give me the assignment, which was a German film that has to be translated for dubbing into Spanish. It was not easy for the first work, but it was great. And the lesson learned from that is that receiving training and networking are essential nowadays, I think. And that would be everything from my side.
Thank you so much, Alejandro, and especially thank you because you're in a challenging time zone compared to us here. I mean, what time is it in Barcelona?
So it's 20 past midnight, so 20 past
okay.
12. Yeah, it's already time to go to sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Yes. Any questions to the students?
It looks like you have some questions in the chat. Do you want me to read them or would you like to read them?
Let's see. Chat. Oh, here it is. Couldn't find that. 2 questions from Aki. Did you feel completely confident to get the job that you wanted after graduation? So I'll take this one first, and then we can look at the second question from Aki. Yeah, also, I'd be interested, did that certificate, that course you completed, did that make any impact? Did you feel like, yes, I put this on LinkedIn, everybody sees it now, or you advertise it, and then doors open a little easier than if I don't have this? And just speak up as you like.
Okay, so maybe I can
Yeah,
start.
go ahead, Alejandro.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't feel so confident, but as regarding the story I have just told, so actually, and also I think also Tyler mentioned it, that now having this type of training, these courses are being highly regarded nowadays than in the past. And yeah, I think you can be confident of what you have learned, which you didn't know when you started for SOAR. And so I think this is something you can apply maybe if you get to your interview, for example. It's not only putting that on your LinkedIn or your CV, but then showing them what you have learned. So I think for sure it's an asset, although you never know how things might go. But yeah, I think for sure it's an asset, and there's been much more work on this field right now, from my point of view, even here in Spain.
Anybody else?
I can follow up off of that and sort of elaborate on a couple of the points I touched on earlier, I think. So as a question of like, is it a matter of confidence? Like, I don't know if I would say to improve my confidence in getting a job, because I mean, you never know what the job market's gonna be like, and that's sort of independent of like your level of education and all that. I will say that it was a pleasant surprise how many people were impressed with me having localization knowledge. Like I said, even roles like the one I ended up getting that aren't necessarily localization centric, they were like, oh, well, we need someone to like look at our website and who has like knowledge of like what might cause loc issues like further down the line. So I'd say that it should instill confidence, even if it doesn't necessarily instill confidence in me when I was going in, because like there's always a certain amount of ambiguity around going into a job search. So the answer is it should, yes. And then for the other question, perspective of getting ready for the job market, where do we think we need to improve? Again, sort of just elaborating on something else I said earlier, is where we're like, the program could definitely go into some further depth. I had some, I guess, a bit of an advantage going into these courses in that, like, especially for the engineering one, I actually had spent 2 years as a computer science major. So I already knew about like programming and APIs and like all these things that some of my peers maybe didn't. And so for them, there was more of a learning curve. And for them, it might be more challenging to apply what they learned to like the real world. And that's where I say, well, if it were expanded into like a longer program, be it a master's program or something else, then you could give them those courses like, okay, here's introduction to programming, and now we're going to do some like hardcore engineering stuff in Loc. So yeah, I think that that's definitely an opportunity there.
Great. Emmeline, Ren, any input from your side?
Yeah, Los, to go back on the first question,
Yeah.
like the other student says, true that you cannot be completely confident. I am definitely very happy with how much I learned, and so I'm sure it's definitely going to help me. I've not been looking for a job because then I switched fields, but I'm pretty confident I can get a job, maybe as a coordinator or a manager in localization. And just for the second question, where you think your school needs to improve, I feel like since I live in the Silicon Valley, people know a lot about the Middlebury Institute program or the one that Tyler did. And so I think that my school should maybe try to, it's a very young program. So I think we have a long way to go in terms of, I'm not gonna say recognition because it's a very good program, but getting the publicity. I think that, yeah, it would be good if the school gets more marketed maybe in the US, because I think a lot of the students we had were Europeans. So I think maybe marketing it more towards the US would be great.
Great.
It's worth noting there, I was actually in a session earlier today where some of the panelists were talking about like having some sort of like coalition between like localization education programs. And I think that definitely applies to what you just said.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're trying to foster and drive with Edwin Loc. Ren, any last words from your side? You don't have to, by all means. I'm not going through one by one, but if you have anything.
Yeah, I just want to add a little. I second all that has been said. And to answer the second part of the question, I wanted to say that as Emmeline mentioned, Ms. has a good reputation around the Bay Area, or even, in the industry. So I think it's a little easier for me or people graduated from there to be recognized in the industry when they're trying to look for a job. And what I think Ms. should keep doing for TLM program exactly is that to keep the network. I really like the network of alums, and also for people in the industry that our professors know. And they were invited to the guest lectures or some other networking events. For example, we also have career fairs. And those were all very helpful for us to expand our network.
Great. Thank you so much. So, dear students, thank you so much for participating, for adding your feedback. Thanks to the audience. And I'm making some shameless advertisement for Edwin Loc here. Please contact us. There's a LinkedIn group, Edwin Loc. Please join us there and you will hear more. We're just started the beginning of the year, so hopefully we'll see more from our side. And if you want to contact one of the students, they all have their LinkedIn profile available, and you will see the slides and the recording from LocWorld then. Right? Thank you very much. It was a pleasure, and have a good rest of your LocWorld.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone.
Have a good one.
Have a nice day. Bye-bye.